Time. Now I'd like to call to order, and I see we're missing our secretary this evening, so we need someone to volunteer to fill in, to handle roll call and such. Mr. Klosky, would you give us the benefit of your talents, please? Thank you. All right. We'll start off with a roll call.
Lowe, absent. Steve McLaughlin. Darrell Lewandowski.
Here.
Casey Kelly. Here. Bart Kahn.
Absent.
Sandy Petrosky here. Doug Shepard.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum with 5 commissioners present, and we have an agenda in front of us.
Excuse me,
This evening.
Mr. Shepard, could we get Ms. Petrosky to use her microphone if she's gonna be on the, if she's gonna call rolls and stuff? We can't hear her. Would you ask her to use that, please?
You want me to call roll again for you, Bonnie?
No, but I'd like you to scoot up a little so we can hear.
Are we ready to go? Okay. The first item is approval of agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to approve. If someone wishes to make it.
I approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. The agenda is approved. It's now time for public comment, and I'll remind everyone that we operate with a somewhat flexible, but it's a planning commission policy. It's a 3-minute limit to public comment, so please keep your comments civil and on topic, and we'll go around the room, and then there's another opportunity for public comment later in the meeting if things come up in the course of the meeting that cause you to want to speak later. So, is there any public comment at this time? If you raise your hand, please, and identify yourself. Ms. Cook?
Good, you know who I am. Anyways, I would like to ask a question of all you people, and I would like to know that if you were running for an election and the people in the township had an overwhelming turnout for that election, and you were the not voted in on the election, how come you think that people told you that you don't want your type of politics? Why do you stay on the boards? Why do people like that stay on committees and things?
I'll speak for myself and let you know that I don't intend to answer that question. Anyone else care to speak? Okay. Any other public comment?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
My name is Greg Timmons. I live near the Three Cedars. Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission, why are we here? Oops, let me get glasses here. Most everything requested on tonight's proposal is already permitted under the Rights to Farm Act. So what is really being asked? 2 things. First, you've been asked to provide unlimited rights to activities which normally require a permit. The township requires these permits so it can restrict activity if it grows too large or interferes with the tranquility of the area. By approving tonight's proposal, you will restrict the township's right to limit activity. Why would the Planning Commission negate the township's ability to enforce order to one single property and not provide the same variance for all township addresses? Second, you've been asked to approve retail sales above and beyond what is allowed by the Right to Farm Act. Again, by approving tonight's proposed changes, you'll be allowing for a donut shack and country store to operate in an agricultural residential area. The country store name really has no boundaries, nor are any boundaries submitted with the proposal. Does a country store include the sale of fishing bait and tackle, chainsaws, farm implements and tractors, guns and ammunition? Where does it end? The truth is that none of this follows the spirit and intent of the township's master plan. It in fact violates the fundamental premise of the master plan by providing spot retail zoning. The township prides itself in being rural. You're being asked to violate the rural atmosphere for one property. How many more will follow in these footsteps? And how could you possibly defend denying others the same variance if you passed tonight's proposal? You're being asked to consider an unabated retail business in the heart of the township. Even if the current owner doesn't plan to go outside the Right to Farm Act or township ordinances, your approval provides the opportunity and these changes stay with the property forever. What if the next owner decides that a Pro Bass Shop or Cabela's fits the definition of a country store? Is there anything in tonight's proposal that gives the township the opportunity to stop that growth? Please stop and think about the future. Nobody's denying three-seaters their rights to operate as a farm. The Right to Farm Act and local ordinances provide broad means for farmers to sell their goods and services. Why would we provide more rights to one address within the township? The master plan on page 63, part 8, paragraph 4B says, development of uncoordinated commercial establishments lining township roads or outside of areas presently indicated for commercial use and zoned for such uses shall, not should, shall be prohibited. I ask that you defend the township's master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quigley, please.
Yes. I was here at the last meeting, and we had Mr. Pennington give his opinion that all the things that were being done on that farm are consistent with the Right to Farm Act. And I can't understand the vote of several of the members of this board in denying that, because the state law, as well, last time I studied the, looked at it, supersedes the local ordinances here. Thank you. I think you should support it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Horton.
Bob Horton, 4235 Shoreview, Whitmore Lake, Michigan. I have a little problem because in 1981, Mr. Pennington can attest to that, up until 1981 in the ordinance we have right now, you couldn't sell tack and bridle at any of the riding stables and stuff. They weren't allowed to sell anything. It was manufactured outside of their location. But in 1981, the board passed riding equipment, horses and saddles and stuff like that. And basically, that's a commercial venture too. So if you want to close this particular part down, then you have to tell all the people that have riding stables and stuff like that, they can't sell tack and anything that's manufactured unless it was manufactured in-house. In 1981, we actually put that in the ordinance.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight, but it's kind of irritating to me in a way. You know, I've lived in this
Could you
community.
identify yourself?
Dan Vergari.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Okay, I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I've lived in this community now for 18 years, and I've really enjoyed the community. I think that I've worked on the election committee as election worker. And it's really wonderful people in this community. And it just seems like it's about time that this community starts pulling together. You know, there's a famous saying that says, we have met the enemy and the enemy is us. And I kind of think it really is applicable here. You know, I've been over to Three Cedars Christmas time, watched the little kids and everything going to see Santa Claus and everything, and smiles on their face and how excited they are to go there for all the different activities that are there. I think it's a real asset to our community to have that farm in their community. I think it fits right into the rural structure. And I think we got to get this community to start pulling together and stop attacking one another all the time. It seems like we started coming to meetings because we started hearing all this stuff. And it seems silly. We're all nice people. Why can't we get together, and work things out instead of trying to find ways to, you know, it reminds me of, lobsters in a pot. You know, one starts doing a little better, and the other one just yank them right back down. And I think this community needs to pull together.
Well said.
That's fine. All right. Mr. Rakowski, you stood up. Does that mean you're raising your hand?
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman.
Why don't you come forward?
Thank you.
So we all,
Okay, Brian Witkowski. First off, I think all of you should be fired. Mr. Timmons has a completely opposite point of view, and obviously his is correct. We had this last meeting with the Planning Commission, and all of these ladies and gentlemen, with their degrees and all of their education and experience, told us one side. Mr. Timmons told us something completely different about exceeding the boundaries for the Right to Farm Act. You should really fire all of your consultants. They should just be gone tonight, put Mr. Timmons up there, you guys will be good to go. That's all I have to say, thank you.
all right. Yes, there.
Hello, my name is Barb Thompson, and I live in Salem Township, and I've been here for about 18 years, and it's been a great place to raise our family. I guess it's hard for me to understand why things get like this. You know, I feel like there's just been so much contention and fighting, and what are we fighting? Like, what exactly are we fighting? I think all of you up there represent the people of Salem Township, and they have spoken loud and clear twice about Three Cedars Farm. I believe that they spoke when the previous board issued a letter to close them down, that they needed to close immediately. I think that there was a tremendous outpouring, and the people of Salem spoke loud and clear about how they felt about that. They also spoke again at the last election. I just really wish that enough was enough. If Three Cedars was perfectly able to operate under the Right to Farm Act, which they are, then why are they so persecuted, and why are they so fought against by the previous board? I asked at one of the previous township meetings, what is the dollar amount that we as a township has spent fighting Three Cedars Farm? What is that number? No one ever got back to me. We have spent a tremendous amount of money in fees and attorney fees and fighting what? Again, I live in Salem Township. There's great things about this township, and there's some things that aren't so great. But one of the things that I love is the community feeling, the old-fashioned, down-home, good people sort of feeling. And that is everything that you get at Three Cedars. If you ask any of my 6 boys, any of their friends, any of their people that come, what's your favorite thing to do in the fall? It's to go to Three Cedars. Like, I just don't understand. When does this persecution stop? And I think, you know, one of the reasons that Three Cedars is trying to move forward with the zoning is because, frankly, they were asked to do that. And they were trying to comply and do the right thing. And then, you know, emails go around and say, show up and fight them. We've just got to put down our guns and agree to disagree. We're not all going to agree on the same thing. But I don't think that we need to spend time and money tearing down the good people of Three Cedars, not to mention all the good that they do for the community, for Active Faith, for countless schools, churches, other community, small groups within our community. I mean, I think it's about time that we say thank you to them and just let's enjoy the small township feeling that we have here in Salem and quit fighting against it. Again, the people of Salem have spoken loud and clear. I think that their voices need to be heard. Enough is enough.
All right. We're done with public comment. That concludes agenda item 4. And we'll move on to correspondence, and I believe there was one,
The planning and zoning news.
yeah, for the January month, the planning and zoning. I don't have the copy of it right here. Mr. Lewandowski has it, and so we received that, and we'll peruse it. That's all there is for correspondence. We have no public hearings on the agenda, so we move to new business items, which is number 7, and we have none. And it now takes us to number 8, which is old business items, and it's, maybe Ms. Cripps, you will introduce the old business item for us, and then we can, hear some, let's call it summaries from the planning experts, and we'll see where we go from there.
This item has been before this body before, is a conditional zoning, and it is item number 12-003, Three Cedars Farms, to allow a seasonal business on the 51 acres that is owned by Three Cedars Farm. The process went through, and Mr. Whitaker withdrew that petition and changed it, and under the state law for conditional zoning, he is allowed to do that at any point during the process. He has done it, and that is why it is back before you tonight. He has added, I believe, the petting farm, that is the, the pony rides, I'm sorry, pony rides, to the petting farm area of the proposal.
Okay, and we have the application in the township.
It's the same application that was submitted previously.
It's represented by the communication from Falso and Bone LLP, the cover letter, and an application and you know, kind of a form, as well as then 6 additional pages of specifications and such.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what's before us. And I know we've been through a lot of detail on this, maybe 2 meetings ago, and then again revisited a large portion of it in the last meeting. And so I would like, let's call it the shorter summary from the planning experts, and then highlight the key points, and then if the commissioners that are new to this have some questions, we'll let them ask specific questions and go into that rather than try and do the full detailed review here, if you will. So Mr. Pennington.
Thank you. I did issue a report to the Planning Commission dated January 25th. And what my report does is look at this proposal through the confines of how we define conditional zoning. So that's the restrictions that I will be talking about within my report. And I'm just going to go over the report pretty much in general form, and if you have any questions, then I will gladly talk about the questions. I want to emphasize right on the first page of my report, this is not a proposal to rezone into some other zoning category. This is a use that is taking place within the AR zoning district, so no zoning will be taking place for this parcel. All it is an amendment to the zoning map. The proposal would both, or what the approval would do, is both define and restrict the permitted uses of the property further than is already provided in the AR district. That's really the key of what's happening here. There's 3 basic areas that I've looked at. All the uses that are in the application, some of them are right now permitted by right within the AR zoning district. In my previous report, I made reference to this, and in this report, I also make reference to this as well. And you can look at those, but with certain things such as the farming activities, the U-pick, the hay hauling, the storage of equipment, that's permitted by right. The petting, seasonal petting is permitted uses right now in the AR district. So there's a lot of things that are permitted by right now, but the applicant is restricting some of those uses in the fashion that's contained within the report. The other thing that this talks about is certain things that have to be requested by the township board. For example, there's things in here like the bonfires, which is something that is granted by the township board under section 326. There's the seasonal barn rentals, the indoor-outdoor parties, things of that nature. That is again something that would be approved on a yearly basis by the township board. What the conditional use does, as submitted by the applicant, is that this would allow, if this is approved, the applicant to have these uses continually. He would not have to go to the township board every year to get these uses under section 326. The other part of the report is I'm looking at things, as I did in my previous report, that could be considered accessory to uses that are already there. And I have made reference in my report regarding the retail sales. I've talked about that. I've given some information, in my opinion, what is going on. The applicant is voluntarily limiting his activities. It's my opinion that this activity, as it's defined with no signage on the site, can basically be considered as an accessory use. Activities that are incidental in character to the actual principal use of the site. It is not a standalone, large-scale retail operation, but in my opinion, it's accessory to the activity and can take place based upon that interpretation. The pony rides, which is the new thing, the new item on the application, is an activity right now. It's a permitted land use in the AR district. It can be done right now by right within that district. It conforms to the minimum acreage standards, lot width requirements, etc. on the parcel. So the things that I've included in my report, the 3 basic areas that I've identified, I think encompasses the real issues regarding this report. It does not negate any other kinds of regulations or ordinances that the applicant may have to be subject to. Other applicable ordinance, including land divisions, the construction codes, the Washington County Environmental Health Department regarding aspects of the facility, the drain field, or environmental health, things of that nature. Those would all be separate and not a part of this application. But that basically summarizes my report of what's taking place here as submitted under this unique conditional zoning is something that's already permitted, something that can be specified under section 326, where the board will not have to grant every year a renewal of the application, or something that, in my opinion, is accessory to the use as it exists right now. So that's how I've looked at this. My report is similar to my previous report. Only thing that's really different from the last time, as Ms. Krebs has stated, is the pony rides have been added to the application. Therefore, it comes back to the Planning Commission. But this is not a rezoning. This is simply the applicant having written limitation on the scope and duration of permitted uses on this parcel. If you have any questions, I'll gladly respond.
Okay. The way I'd like to handle this now is let's have the commissioners ask questions, and then as a result of asking questions, maybe the applicant will need to respond to clarify, or the experts, and then depending on how that goes, we'll let the applicant make a statement after that we've gone through that, just to summarize if they wish to, and then we'll get on with the rest of the business related to this, if that's okay. All right. So let's jump around the table this time, and Ms. Merlo, would you like to ask any questions related to this?
No, none.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that. How about Ms. McLaughlin?
Yes, I just want to clarify.
Microphone, please.
Okay. So can Three Cedars use this conditional use to start a year-round, full-scale retail business and be protected from township action?
As is that for me through the chair, if I could answer that question?
Yeah, that's fine.
As I stated, it is a commercial operation, but in my opinion, it is accessory to the principal use. It is not a standalone commercial use. There's lots of examples where this type of thing, can take place. Sometime you'll have an industrial or technological operation where there may be some type of small accessory commercial uses that may be a part of that operation, but it's not a principal dominating use of that operation. And that's my opinion, of this. I believe it is accessory. The scale, the character, in my opinion, makes it accessory. There's no signage. And if this application, which is a conditional zoning application, is approved, I would say yes to your question, that he would have the right to continue with that operation as it exists presently.
But he could, I'm just asking about the seasonal.
It would be seasonal.
Okay, so.
He's restricted. As I said in my opening comments, the applicant is restricting the uses. These are written limitations that he said, I'm going to have it seasonal. I've defined the months, the times, things of that nature. That's all it's going to be, and it cannot exceed that criteria.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
Just if I could further answer Ms. McLaughlin's question. As I understand, your question is, you're wondering, can he exceed beyond what this commission recommends to the board, assuming the board approves it. And one of the benefits of the township of approving a conditional zoning such as this is that the applicant is restricted, the landowner is restricted to what they apply for. They can't exceed the uses that they've applied for, unless they come back, of course, to this planning commission and the board and ask for an extension. It's different than rezoning the property, where if they were to rezone this to commercial, anything under commercial zoning would be allowed. Any of the uses that are allowed in the zoning, in our zoning laws, would be permitted there. Here, the applicant's coming forward and saying, the property is going to stay agricultural, residential, but I'm asking you to approve these limited additional uses. And if the planning commission recommends those and the board approves them, he's limited, though, then to what he applies for here. Again, unless he comes back and asks for something additional.
Other questions? Okay. How about Mr. Lewandowski? You're new to this.
Yes, but not really. I'd like to, if I may, Chair, ask Ed Plato a question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Fine
And
with that.
being that it's been brought up that I do work at the farm on a limited basis only, Saturday and a Sunday. I'm volunteering my time. Does that entitle me to vote tonight?
If you're strictly a volunteer there, if you don't have any ownership interest in the farm,
Nope.
and you're not paid by Three Cedars Farm or the Whitakers in any way or compensated, if you're strictly volunteering your time at the farm, I don't think there's any conflict. You certainly don't have any financial interest in the outcome here today,
Right.
and I don't think you have a conflict of interest.
Okay,
So in other words, you would be entitled to vote.
Okay.
Other questions? Mr. Lewandowski, or was that?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
How about Ms. Kelly?
Donna, when I emailed you earlier today about my conversation with the Michigan Township Association, I contacted you for clarification on the application. I was confused about the title of the application based on what the woman at MTA told me. And you explained to me kind of what that was, and then you laughingly said, "That's clear as mud, isn't it?" Could you please explain that to all of us? How it is worded, why that application?
Well, the application
appropriate
itself,
one.
this is something new to the township. This has never been presented to this board. It is new to the state of Michigan. It was part of the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act that went into effect in 2006. And this is the first time it's ever been used in this particular community. So there really was no particular application that I could hand him that addressed exactly what this issue was. So I chose the one that was closest, and because it is a restriction on the zoning map for that particular parcel, that's why it's the zoning amendment.
I can, if it's all right, I can just add a little clarification. I just, right out of the state act, the section we're talking about says an owner of land may voluntarily offer in writing, and the township may approve certain use and development of the land as a condition to a rezoning of land or an amendment to a zoning map. And here we are doing the amendment to the AR district by adding those voluntary restrictions.
I'm not sure that the questions at MTA, obviously she wasn't, she hasn't dealt with it within this particular community. Every community handles it differently and that. So I'm not sure what your concerns were with her. I know because this is an application, it's complete into itself, the right to farm does affect his property, but that is not what his request is for. He is not requesting right to farm issues. He is requesting to allow seasonal uses that include some right to farm uses on his property. So the Right to Farm Act does not apply to this particular use, otherwise that he still has to comply with camps and those types of activities. But the request is not right to farm.
Right. It would be the activities that are not covered under right to farm
Yes.
that would not normally be allowed on an
Yes.
AR zone parcel.
Mhm.
So,
he is in compliance with part of it, but he does have some activities that don't comply, and that's why the
Right.
conditional zoning takes all of those and puts them under one umbrella and says this is what is allowed on this particular piece of property.
okay, so if we are being asked to add uses that would not normally be allowed on that parcel, how is that a limitation?
Well, I would actually disagree with that statement, and in one sense that, as we've noted in the report, the activities that are listed here are permitted in either various sections of the zoning ordinance or permitted by other township ordinances. I think the one that is a question is the accessory retail activity, and whether or not that's an accessory use to the principal farm operation, as the ordinance would define an accessory use. And we talked about that in our last meeting as well. But all of the activities, as we noted in our report, are permitted in one form or another, either as temporary activities related transient amusement enterprises is the section that applies there, or permitted in the AR district.
Then why is all this necessary?
Well, the key is wrapping all of this together, as Don said, into one application that sets the rules down in place, essentially makes their voluntary restrictions part of the zoning of the property going forward. So it sets the rules in a way that right now they're, in various ordinances, there are various rules apply, various permits apply. This puts it all in one place, wraps it all together in one document, where they voluntarily restricted themselves to these particular months of the year, this scale and scope of activity. And having all that said in one document will make enforcement of the rules much simpler in the future.
Mr. Pennington?
No, I have my report, and let me say two things. One is we're handicapped to a degree because this is the first time we've gone through this process. If we had it to do over again or anything of that nature, it may not have taken place. I don't know. But it is here, and we're dealing with it. And that's why I said in the beginning, the things that we've put in the report are within the confines of what we can say about conditional zoning. We can't ask the applicant for anything. We can't put conditions on it. It is a yes, no, based upon what the applicant has submitted. I believe that what has submitted, in large part, is in conformance with the existing ordinance. It's something that he's voluntarily said, okay, I'm going to limit some of these activities, even though they may be permitted, but I'm going to limit them. And as I said, under section 3.26, under this packaging, he would not have to go to the board every year to get a permit for a bonfire or a permit for some other activity on the site. It wraps it in together. So it's one way of looking at this so that we all know exactly what's taking place on that site. It's exactly what is specified in the application.
Where is it being limited? What is suggested that is limiting, other than,
The time of the year, for example.
everything, the things that are being suggested are things that have always been going on, correct?
He's limiting himself on time of year for certain activities. Certain activities only take place on a given number of months. So that is a limitation that he's placed upon himself.
Okay. Ms. Petrosky?
My concern here is that Three Cedars has always maintained it falls under the Right to Farm Act. There is a number of complaints at the state level that have been lodged, and the investigation is in the process. When Mr. Whitman was here on 9/11, he told us that normally the complaint process takes 7 days. We're now 2 months into the fact, and we still don't have an answer, so I've got to believe there's a little bit more to this than that. Just a simple, they're falling under the Right to Farm Act. So if Three Cedars didn't fall under the Right to Farm Act, there's a lot of activities taking place right now that couldn't take place. And so he's asking us to condone, approve all of those activities that are taking place right now that may not even be allowed even under the Right to Farm Act. So I don't see how in good conscience any of us as commissioners cannot ask for a postponement on this until we get an answer back from the state.
Come on. We don't need the audience participation.
Oh, yes, we do.
If we
Let's
don't
afford the
have
commissioners
an,
the same rights to speak as we give the audience.
if we don't have an answer back from the state saying that Three Cedars falls under the Right to Farm Act, then we as commissioners have not done our community a service. We are only servicing certain people. We're not servicing the rights and protecting the rights of all members of this community. We are here to do an unbiased opinion based on the facts, and the facts that come back is if Three Cedars falls under the Right to Farm Act, that's something that all of us have to accept regardless. That's what the ruling is that it falls under the Right to Farm Act. We may not like it, but we have to accept it. But if it doesn't fall under the Right to Farm Act, I think in good conscience, we need to wait and see if that is the case.
How long?
Well, Ed will say what I'm gonna say anyway. So
I'm not recognizing the audience at this time.
If I could briefly respond to Commissioner Petrosky. I've had some communication with Mr. Whitman at the Department of Agriculture, and he is aware that this application is pending before this commission tonight and will eventually go before the Board of Trustees. It's my belief that he is probably waiting to see what action is taken here before he makes any ruling, if he makes any ruling at all, with regard to whether this land is in compliance with the Right to Farm Act. Obviously, if this conditional zoning is approved and approved by the Board of Trustees, there's no reason for the Department of Agriculture to make a ruling. That's probably why it's taken as long as it has, much longer than normally would be the process. Number one. Number two, I really, I think we're mixing apples and oranges here. I don't think this application has nothing to do with the Right to Farm Act. The situation, if we go back to the previous administration here, when Mr. Whitaker was told that his farm was not in compliance with the township zoning and had certain safety violations. After he was made aware of that, Mr. Whitaker went ahead and made the violations to the satisfaction of the township at that time. And it was the township, before the new board was implemented, that made the suggestion to Mr. Whitaker to apply for conditional zoning, as he's done. And in doing that would remove, if that's approved, would remove any cloud, any question whether or not he's in compliance with the Right to Farm Act. So the old board, when the old board was in place, the only thing that could have been done to get a definitive determination of whether his farm was under the Right to Farm Act was for the township to take him to court, or Mr. Whitaker to take the township to court and have a court rule on that. Obviously, that involves a lot of attorney's fees, a lot of expense for both Mr. Whitaker and the township. Township elected not to do that. Mr. Whitaker elected not to do that. The alternative is for him to come forward now with this application for conditional zoning and say, here's the uses I want to put on my property. I'm willing to limit to those uses. Will you approve these? And that's the process we're going through now.
Ms. Petrosky, you still have the opportunity to ask questions or make comments.
I don't see anything in this application that is limiting at all. In fact, the email that came down in the new application, the way it says is, now, we want all of these things. We also want anything present and future that falls under the Right to Farm Act. And in the event that the township would pass an agritourism ordinance, we want access to that also. So to me, this is not limiting whatsoever. It's saying, I would just want to be able to do everything that would fall under these things. If indeed the farm does not fall under the Right to Farm Act right now, then I think that this is going to go with the land. It's not just going to end with Mr. Whitaker's owning of the land. It's going to stay with the land forever.
As long as the use would continue.
Right, right.
But
So,
if he decides to fall under the agritourism, that's a conditional use. He would have to come back before this body before he could add anything to it.
that's true, but
So
again,
it's not, he has limited himself to the uses that are in this plan. Any changes to this, he's got to come back before this body. It's not a carte blanche that he can, under Right Farm, he can do whatever he wants.
if we have somebody come before us that asks to have, for instance, let's say, a Renaissance festival,
They would have to go through the process.
they would have to go through the process, and we would have to grant them the ability to do that, because the precedent has been set that we're allowing Three
This is on an
Cedars to do that,
individual,
right?
this is related to this particular piece of property. A Renaissance festival may be on a different piece of property, you would have to give it its due consideration and look at it for that particular piece of property. Just because you have granted one person that the ability to do something does not mean you automatically pass that on to the next person in line. Each case is judged on its own merits.
You through? Okay, I might have a question or two. I guess my first question for either Mr. Pennington or Ms. Cripps, just reiterate for me, I've been through the paperwork so much. Is this application consistent with the provisions of the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act?
I believe that it is.
Okay. And then one for Ms. Cripps, is this application consistent with the requirements of the Salem Township zoning ordinance?
Yes.
So it's a proper application, have the proper fees been paid?
Yes, they have.
Okay. So we have every reason, I think, to move forward on this one way or another. I guess what I'll do is I'll allow the applicant to make any statement if he wants this time, and then I have a suggestion for how the board can get after this business item. So does the applicant wish to make any other points here?
We're all set.
Okay. At this point, when I was making my notes, it seems like in front of us, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we should take action to, we have to take action to either postpone or to move forward with this application. If we move forward with it, we can move forward with a recommendation to the board to approve it, or a recommendation to the board to deny it. But it's the Planning Commission's recommendation, and the application actually goes to the Township Board for their review and decisioning. And I believe we've done an adequate job at laying out all the facts and asking all the questions. So at this point, I'm open to a motion from someone up here in the direction of moving forward with or without, or postponement. And we'll sort out where our heads are at.
I make a motion that we take a roll call vote to approve the applicant's request. Pass
Okay.
the
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, now do we have a wording on that? Because let's make sure we meet the requirements here of good, let's call it good documentation.
I'm going to put
So-
down that it would be the submittal of January 16th, 2013.
Yes?
And we will reference Mr. Pennington's letter dated January 21st, 2013.
Okay.
Okay. So application 12-003, commonly known as Three Cedars Farm, we recommend approval of the submittal dated January 13th, 2013, in compliance with the planner's letter of January 21st, 2013, and recommend to the Board of Trustees approval of the seasonal use at Three Cedars Farm.
Okay,
Something
do we
similar
have
to
that
That's
all in one? We
That
should take
sounds
a
good.
minute here to make sure we have it copied down accurately. You've got it, Donna?
I'll make sure that's written out properly.
Okay.
But that's kind of the gist of what you're.
All right.
Well, why don't we make sure it's accurate now so that it can be read back to the commission so everybody's sure what they're voting on.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I'd like to hear it clearly in one fell swoop.
Planning Commission recommends approval of application 12-003 submitted on January 13th, 2013 for Three Cedars Farms to allow a seasonal use as a conditional zone, and in compliance with the planner's report of January 21st, 2013.
Okay. You're okay with that as
Yes.
the motion?
Yes.
And with the seconding, and all right. Any further discussion? No. Let's have a roll call vote, please. If you would.
Sandy Petrosky.
No.
TJ McLaughlin.
Yes.
Darrell Lewandowski.
Yes.
Pam Merlo, yes. Casey Kelly.
No.
Doug Shepherd.
Yes. Motion passes. All right, that concludes business item 8A. We move on to the next item on our agenda, which is election of officers. Okay, we have 3 positions to fill: chairman, a vice chairperson, maybe it's a chairperson and then a vice chairperson, if we want to be appropriate. The vice chairperson's position is hopefully symbolic, because as long as the chairman is available to fill the duties, the vice chairperson has an easy time with it. But as we all know, when the chairman resigns, then the vice chairperson has to step up to the table, and I guess I'm going to get that right now. And then finally, we need a secretary, because we have very critical records that we have to keep accurately and ensure that they're handled properly. So, we're open for nominations for the position of chairperson at this time. If someone would like to make such a nomination.
I nominate Doug Shepherd once again.
Second.
Who seconded?
I did.
Casey.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. At this point, we need to take a
Can I
vote.
ask a question?
I'm sorry?
Oh, about, okay, never mind, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we're going through the chairperson nomination. And
Gotcha.
if you would like to nominate someone else, we can do that.
No,
No,
I'm all
okay.
for you doing it.
All right. No, so roll call vote or just voice vote?
I vote.
I vote, okay. So we have a nomination for Doug Shepherd as chairperson of the Planning Commission for this year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Now we need a nomination for a vice chairperson for this group. Who's got an idea here?
Well, Mark Kahn's not here.
Let's throw his hat in the ring. Part of what we want to do is we want to make, maybe that's why he's not here. Anyway, okay. Who's up to the task? I will tell you, I would like to nominate Casey Kelly as our vice chairperson, if she would accept it.
Seriously?
Seriously. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any other nominations? Fine. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There's one way to not be secretary is to be vice chairman. Okay, now we need a nomination for secretary. If we
That
would.
was my question. Pam, how do you feel about continuing that job? Do you even want it?
I'm sorry?
Are you,
I'm fine.
you good with having it? Because you're doing a great job. I would like to nominate Pam unless she would be mad at me if I did so.
And I'll second.
Okay.
Any others?
Mr. Lewandowski, second.
Pardon?
Who seconded?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other nominations for secretary? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Congratulations, officer.
Good. Our next item is the approval of minutes from the December 17th, 2012 meeting minutes. We should all have the draft minutes. Now I had mine here. I got it. Okay. And, I'd just like to point out maybe 2 typos, if I can. The one's on the second page under public comment, midway down, Mr. Stewart. His comment should read, trees and ITC towers are not barriers to viewing the church from neighboring properties. And then, on the third page, under reports and announcements, item 11, the last sentence in there, I believe it should read, the Board of Trustees asked the Planning Commission to review and recommend a zoning map amendment, inserting the word zoning there. Anything else that people have noticed? Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from December 17th, 2012 with those 2 corrections. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Reports and announcements. It says, schedule a special meeting for February 4th, 2013.
This is for the zoning, the proposed zoning ordinance,
Yes? Okay.
and I did get 4 ayes from people when I had emailed.
We've been holding the date. We've had some conversation, and now we need a planning commission resolution,
Motion just to schedule a special meeting.
Okay, so, I would like to move that the planning commission hold a special meeting on February 4th, 2013, starting at 7:30 in the evening, for the express purpose of reviewing the proposed new zoning ordinance and devoting the entire meeting to that activity with comment and interaction from the public. Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. 11B. Could you walk us through that, please, Ms. Cripps?
You have in front of you at the board table a resolution that was passed by the Board of Trustees asking that you rezone the Shoshack property from AR, to ROP, which is Residential Office Park. And this requires a public hearing. It is initiated by the Board of Trustees. They've directed you to take a look at it, make a recommendation to them, and it will require the posting of a sign for the property to be rezoned. And I think on the back of your remembrance, I kind of highlighted the properties that we're talking about.
This here.
Yeah. It's in the
I'm quite familiar
USD,
with
and
it.
I also put in front of you a copy of the ordinance that refers to the uses and that are permitted in there. I did not have it in my zoning book, and I wasn't sure that you had it in your zoning book. So you have a copy of the ordinance that you can use to
Okay, because
review that.
the zoning ordinance was adopted in 2001, I think, and then this was an update to our township zoning ordinance that happened on February 8th, 2005. Right, and it should be in our books, right?
You should have a copy in your zoning book. I did not have one in the zoning book that I received, so I made the assumption that you did not have it either, so.
Okay, you've
If it's
got
a
one now,
duplication,
right?
okay.
Okay.
I put it on the table in front of you. It's under the USB,
All right, so,
so that you will have it.
my thinking is we should have the public hearing at our regularly scheduled meeting in February if things are ready for that. Yes, Mr.
If I
Pennington?
could add a comment, please. You had one hearing of the St. Mary's Church, and they are wanting to come in at the next meeting. And I've had conversations with the engineer and the architect regarding the project, and they're looking for the possibility of a combined preliminary and final site plan. So that may take a little more time when we're dealing with the sophistication of the proposal. My thought for your consideration is, since the public hearing in the USD is a pretty important thing and could take some time, it might be worthy to put it in the March regularly scheduled meeting, so that the next meeting we could be looking specifically at the church proposal, and then the following month we could look at the public hearing, or have the public hearing for the rezoning to the ROP in the Urban Service District.
Okay, so we would be doing, if we followed your suggestion, we would do the Coptic Church on February 25th, and then the public hearing would be our regularly scheduled meeting in March, which would be March 18th.
Yes.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Does that fit? Everyone's, all right, now do we need then to go through a motion now to say that we're scheduling the public hearing as part of that meeting, or since it's not a special meeting, we don't need a motion, it's just our normal procedure, I hope?
You would need a motion because it's going to be a public hearing.
Okay, so we need a motion from the floor. I guess I'll make it. That is, I move that the Salem Township Planning Commission schedule a public hearing for the rezoning proposal based on the board's resolution 2012-12-11-02 to be conducted during the regular scheduled meeting on March 18th of 2013. Did that come out clear enough? Okay.
I'll second.
You second?
Yes.
Mr. Lewandowski seconds?
Could we take a short recess while
I'm sorry?
Could we take a short recess so I could discuss briefly with you a matter in private?
I still didn't.
I said, could we take a short, did the commission take a short recess so I could have a discussion with you?
Discussion?
On the rezoning.
On the
Yes.
rezoning?
After the meeting.
No,
No,
right
right
now.
now.
Do it now, before, if you want to, we'd like to meet with you right now.
Oh, okay, at this moment.
At this moment, if we
So-
take 5-minute recess.
We
5-minute
need,
recess.
all right, I'm going to declare a 5-minute recess so we can have this discussion. Okay. This is for the commissioners here, really. The point's been made that there's some interest in moving forward on the.
We can't hear you.
Doug,
You might
Wait,
want
mic on.
Sorry, you guys turned it off, I had to turn it off. All right, here we go. There's some interest in moving forward quickly on the rezoning request that the township board is resolved to address. So what I'd like to do is, instead of proposing March 18th, I would like to see if the commissioners could support a special meeting on Monday, March 4th for the purpose of that public hearing. And I just want to look up and down the table here and see if we can get, I mean, I know I can be available. Casey says she's okay.
I guess I can be here, yeah.
Okay. So, fine, then I think we'll have a quorum, which is what it takes to have that meeting properly. So now, I'd like to withdraw my first motion, which wasn't even seconded, right? And make a new motion that the Salem Township Planning Commission schedule a special meeting for Monday, March 4th at 7:30 p.m. for the sole purpose of conducting a public hearing related to the Salem Township Board's resolution number 2012-12-1102, which is initiating an amendment of the township zoning ordinance to a specific parcel. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Fine. It passes, and we'll have a meeting then. And we'll handle things to schedule and make sure all of the reports and signage and such are done, not at the last minute, as far ahead as possible and as practical, please. Okay. We already talked about we had a motion, we had a postponement of St. Mary's Coptic Church, and I suppose we need
You
to
postponed
act
it.
on that tonight because we said we would bring it up, correct? We had postponed, and then I believe
You had
the,
postponed it to your January 28th, 2012 meeting.
okay.
So we
And-
need to extend that postponement
Okay.
to the February 25th meeting.
All right, so I move that we extend the postponement on item 12-004, St. Mary's Coptic Orthodox Church, from January 28th, this evening, to the February 25th, 2013 meeting per the applicant's request. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Fine. That's handled. We're now to item 12, public comment.
I'm Gary Whitaker, of course, the owner of Three Cedars. I would like to thank each of you tonight that are on the Planning Commission, and all you folks over here for all your time, and appreciate the vote tonight. For those of you that did not vote for the farm and stuff, I still would like you to know that I respect your views and I hope that all of our committees and all of our boards in this township will work together. And just would like to know and thank each of you for your support and also for your time serving. Thank you.
Other comment? Fine. We're done with public comment this evening. At that point, I would say,
Adjourn, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:39. Is that right?
I seconded, and we don't even need to do that. I can just say the meeting is adjourned at 8:39. We're done. Thank you all.